After years of delays, Ethereum 2.0 is now only weeks away. Some are calling it the most significant event to happen in cryptocurrency this year, and others believe it may be the most significant crypto event in the last 5 years. It's easy to see why. Ethereum basically powers the entire DeFi space. Ethereum sustains virtual worlds like Decentraland and the Sandbox. Ethereum hosts elaborate NFT and blockchain domain marketplaces. And most importantly, almost half of the top 100 cryptocurrencies by market cap are built using Ethereum's ERC20 token standard. The question has been how these growing ecosystems can continue to scale, and Ethereum 2.0 is the answer. However, the recent launch of Ethereum's 2.0 official staking contract has thrown an even bigger question onto the table. To stake or not to stake, and if you should stake, when should you do it? Well, in this video, I'm going to help you find the answers to all these questions and more. Before we dig in, I need to make one thing very clear. I may look, sound, and perhaps even smell like a financial advisor, but I am not a financial advisor, and nothing I say during this video should be considered financial or investment advice. This video is just one of the many resources you should tap into on your quest to crypto enlightenment. My name is Guy, and my mission is to bring you the best information I can find about your favorite cryptocurrencies, exchanges, DeFi protocols, and much more. If this is the sort of stuff that populates your YouTube homepage, you can make sure I keep showing up there by subscribing to the Bureau. Pinging that notification bell will guarantee that none of these videos fly under your radar. We have a lot to cover today, so if you're pressed for time, you can use the timestamps below to help you get to the stuff you want to hear. Feeling good? Feeling ready? Me too. Let's get into it, shall we? If you're not familiar with Ethereum 2.0, here is a quick rundown. Also known by its original codename, Serenity, Ethereum 2.0 has basically been in the works since Ethereum was created back in 2015. This is because Ethereum's founders knew at the outset that it was only a matter of time before Ethereum's measly 15 transactions per second would not be enough to sustain its growing number of decentralized applications and their users. The first time this happened was in December 2017, when CryptoKitties brought the Ethereum network to a screeching halt with sky-high fees. The emergence of DeFi over the last 2 years has likewise pushed Ethereum back to the edge of what the network can handle, turning up the heat on Ethereum's developers to usher in the 2.0 era. Ethereum 2.0 will drastically increase the efficiency of the network, allowing you to use all your favorite DeFi protocols and decentralized exchanges without paying an arm and a leg in gas fees. This is possible thanks to something called sharding, a technology that's been used in database systems for years to improve efficiency. In Ethereum 2.0, each sharded chain will be able to manage its own subset of user accounts and decentralized applications within the ecosystem. For example, you could have one shard that handles decentralized exchanges like Uniswap and Kyber Network, and have another shard that handles DeFi protocols like Aave and Compound. These sharded chains will be able to operate in parallel, and they all connect to the beacon chain. This is the central chain which manages Ethereum 2.0's unique proof-of-stake consensus mechanism. With all these upgrades, Ethereum 2.0 will be able to process tens of thousands of transactions per second. I've actually covered Ethereum 2.0 twice before, and you can watch this video over here if you want a more in-depth overview of how Ethereum 2.0 works. Anyways, it seems like ETH 2.0 has been on our doorstep for ages, so why isn't it here yet? Well, let's just say that migrating Ethereum's enormous ecosystem is not something that you can do overnight. Not only will the full transition to 2.0 take a lot of time, but there will also need to be rigorous testing at each step to ensure that 2.0 can safely and reliably sustain Ethereum's current ecosystem. This is why there have been almost a dozen ETH 2.0 testnets since 2019. After years of foreplay, first base is finally around the corner. Ethereum 2.0 staking. The staking contract went live on November the 4th. The start of the first phase of Ethereum 2.0, Phase 0, will begin on December the 1st, but only if a minimum of 525,000 ETH has been staked by at least 16,400 unique validator nodes 1 week prior. If these conditions are not met, the launch of Phase 0 will be delayed on a weekly basis until the minimum amount of ETH has been staked by the minimum number of validators. To become a validator on Ethereum 2.0, you need just 3 things. 32 ETH, which costs around $15,000 at the time of shooting, a robust internet connection, and a functional computer with modest specs to run the staking software. Note that if you do not have 32 Ethereum but still want to stake, you can join an Ethereum 2.0 staking pool. That said, the hardware you will need fundamentally depends on how much Ethereum you plan to stake. The more you plan to stake, the more of the network traffic you'll be responsible for handling, and this means you'll have to shell out some more cash for some more elaborate gear. This is to ensure that someone cannot simply buy up a bunch of Ethereum and take control of the network. I should note that the documentation on this is a bit conflicting, with some sources highlighting that there is a maximum stake of 32 ETH to ensure network decentralization. Staking rewards likewise depend on network conditions. If the minimum 525,000 ETH is staked, you'll receive a modest 21% annual percentage yield on your Ethereum, paid in Ether every 6 minutes. However, this APY falls as more ETH is staked, with an annual yield of just 5% when 10 million ETH is staked on the network. Your yields are also influenced by any downtime you might experience, as you'll begin to lose some of your yields and even some of your stake if you stay offline for too long. If you want to learn more about staking on Ethereum 2.0, be sure to check out the Ethereum Launchpad. It takes you step by step through the process of setting up a validator node in a surprisingly simple manner, and it's how I will be staking my own ETH on 2.0 in the coming weeks. I'll leave a link for you in the description, along with a few links to staking pools if you don't have the 32 ETH required to become your own bona fide validator. So, are we on track for that December the 1st launch? Well, only about 10% of the ETH required for Phase 0 has been staked so far, and I have a feeling that the total number of validators is not that large either. This is because some have probably staked more than 32 ETH. In what was probably an attempt to motivate more people to stake, Ethereum creator Vitalik Buterin put his money where his mouth is and committed 3,200 of his ETH to 2.0 staking. That's almost $1.5 million worth of Ethereum. Unfortunately, this does not appear to have had very much effect on 2.0 staking. At first glance, this lackluster participation seems quite surprising. Ethereum is the second largest project in the crypto space. It supports a massive ecosystem, and it's very easy to argue that Ethereum is the most significant project currently in existence, even outside of cryptocurrency. The barriers to entry for staking are very low compared to most other proof-of-stake blockchains. The annual percentage yields for staking are both lucrative and reasonable. Moreover, the creator of the project has put millions of dollars of his own money on the line. Ethereum 2.0 staking seems like a no-brainer until you read the fine print. First, when you stake your ETH, it's a one-way trip. You'll not be able to turn your new 2.0 ETH back into 1.0 ETH, at least not anytime soon. Second, you'll not even be able to withdraw your staked ETH or your staking rewards until the launch of Phase 2, which will not happen for another 2 years at the very least. Third, during this 2+ year period, if anything goes wrong with the network and you lose some or all of your stake, it's on you. These disclaimers open the door to a tsunami of reasons not to stake your ETH on Ethereum 2.0, which clearly drown out the reasons for staking in the eyes of many ETH holders. But what about the 120,000 addresses that are holding 32 ETH? Why haven't they staked? It all comes down to one simple metric: profit. You see, it will be years before Ethereum 2.0 is actually finished. Until that happens, Ethereum 1.0 will continue to exist. This begs the question, which of the two is more profitable to hold? For the time being, it's Ethereum 1.0, and here's why. Let's assume that the returns you'll get for staking your ETH in 2.0 will be 60% by the time you're allowed to withdraw. Let's forget compounding now for simplicity's sake. This assumes 3 years between phase 0 and phase 2, with the maximum staking APY of 20% every year. Let's also assume that the phase 0 launch happens on December the 1st. Now consider the fact that Ether has seen an almost 60% gain in just the past 3 months. For most people, selling their ETH during this bull market will be exponentially more profitable than staking their ETH, and let's face it, that's why most people are involved with cryptocurrency to begin with. I suspect that those 120,000 entities that have been accumulating 32 ETH for the staking profits can probably see that they will make way more money waiting to sell that ETH during this bull market than locking it away for 2 or more years with constant uptime and no user protection. What's more is that the more ETH that other holders stake, the more valuable the remaining ETH in circulation becomes due to the reduction in circulating supply. But what about the price of Ethereum in 3 years after phase 2 is launched? Well, I'm no fortune teller, but I'm going to assume that many people who staked will be itching to claim and sell their yields and maybe even the ETH they staked. This could crash the price of Ethereum, assuming it hasn't already been overtaken by other projects in the meantime, in which case it could be next to worthless by that time. To protect against just that, Vitalik Buterin has been focusing on implementing Layer 2 scaling solutions on Ethereum 1.0, and even detailed a loose roadmap for it in October. Layer 2 scaling solutions for Ethereum have been around for some time. OMG Network and Loopring are just 2 that come to mind, and both have done a really good job of scaling Ethereum, especially Loopring. You can watch my video on Loopring by clicking here. In Vitalik's estimation, Layer 2 solutions for Ethereum 1.0 will give it another few years of shelf life, which should keep other competitors like Polkadot and Cardano at bay until Ethereum 2.0 is fully operational. While this is certainly good news, it ironically gives even less incentive to people to make the transition from 1.0 to 2.0. Why switch when Ethereum plus Layer 2 does the job for you? It really seems that no matter how you spin it, staking your ETH on Ethereum 2.0 is simply not worth it. But what if I told you there was a way you could stake your ETH on 2.0 without completely locking up your funds? On the same day that the Ethereum 2.0 deposit contract launched, the FTX cryptocurrency exchange announced that it wants to list a token called Beacon Chain Ether, or BETH. And it's not the only exchange that's looking to do this either. But how the hell does this work, and why would they do it? The BETH token would basically function as an IOU. This is how it works. You stake your ETH in 2.0 using a cryptocurrency exchange like FTX, and they will give you a BETH token representing the 2.0 ETH you staked. The benefit for them is that they get to claim your staked Ethereum when phase 2 launches 2 or 3 years from now, plus the interest accrued from staking. The benefit for you is that you still have access to Ethereum you've staked via the BETH token, which can be freely traded on the open market, meaning you won't miss out on the next bull run. An exchange could go even further and issue a BETH token that actually accrues some of the interest being generated from staking in real time. In fact, it looks like this is exactly what they're planning to do. An interest-bearing BETH token would mean that holders could earn, say, 50% of that annual 20% staking reward in real time for just holding BETH tokens. If your DeFi senses aren't tingling, they should be. BETH is almost identical to stablecoin tokens in lending protocols like Aave's ADAI and Compound's CDAI. These tokens also bear interest in real time and can be freely traded on decentralized exchanges like Uniswap. The difference is that the interest bonus you get on ADAI and CDAI is not nearly as stable as the interest you would get with BETH. The APY from ADAI and CDAI are also not nearly as high as BETH. In other words, holding BETH could reliably give you a yield up to 4 times higher than any lending protocol stablecoin token, arguably making it one of the best assets for a number of DeFi magic tricks. As with interest-bearing tokens, however, holding BETH would come with a lot of risk. It would require that the Ethereum 2.0 network remains stable, and that the entity that's staking your ETH acts honestly and stays online as much as possible. Any serious slashing could undermine the collateral needed to back the amount of BETH in circulation, which could seriously disrupt the cryptocurrency market if BETH became too large. Speaking of the BETH market, there would need to be some serious liquidity for BETH, lest it fall prey to market manipulation. This means that a lot of people would have to stake their ETH with an exchange to mint enough BETH tokens to ensure a stable and liquid market. Something tells me that this would not be very hard to do, given that DeFi degens will probably be rushing to buy BETH as soon as it becomes available. While Vitalik and other Ethereum developers are not too keen on this secondary Ethereum market, it may just be the incentive required to push ETH holders to stake in Ethereum 2.0. BETH would also fundamentally make for a much smoother transition from 1.0 to 2.0. Some are already speculating that BETH will quickly become larger than Ethereum itself once it's released. If you're wondering when you'll be able to get your hands on some BETH, the short answer is not anytime soon. This is because it looks like Phase 0 first needs to launch before any interest can start being accrued by stakers on the network. And for that to happen, the minimums for ETH staking and validator participation need to be met. Until that happens, no sane exchange is going to start issuing BETH tokens. In other words, the only thing that will truly push people to stake to launch Phase 0 is the issuance of BETH tokens. But for BETH tokens to be issued, there must first be enough people staking for Phase 0 to launch. That is one hell of a vicious circle, but I think the big brains at Ethereum will find some way out of it if the Phase 0 launch is delayed for too long. Before we call it a day, we still need to answer that pressing question: to stake or not to stake, and if you should stake, then when? As we've seen, staking your ETH on 2.0 does not seem to be a very good deal. If you stake, there's no turning back. It's a one-way trip. You'll also lose access to your staked funds for at least 2 years, and the sizable interest you would have gained during that time will probably not outweigh the profits you could make from simply selling your ETH during the next bull market, which we currently seem to be in. Moreover, although Ethereum as it stands today is not going to cut it for the next few years, Layer 2 scaling solutions are expected to be introduced in the near future to ensure that Ethereum can stay ahead of projects like Polkadot and Cardano until 2.0 is rolled out. It's worth pointing out that these projects pose a real threat. Both are direct competitors to Ethereum, and both were founded by two brilliant minds who also technically co-founded Ethereum. In any case, if Ethereum as it stands today can be improved enough to sustain its ecosystem for the next few years, why rush to stake? Tens of thousands of accounts have accumulated the 32 ETH required to stake, but they are probably hesitant to do so for these very reasons. Thankfully, there seems to be a simple solution. Tokenize the Ethereum being staked on the 2.0 network to make it possible to trade even while it's locked up. Giving BETH token holders a cut of the interest they're accruing will also make BETH a token that is highly sought after by DeFi yield farmers who are already staking almost 10 million ETH in various protocols. This would push more people to stake their ETH to satisfy the enormous demand for BETH from DeFi degens, consequently securing Ethereum 2.0 in the process. The only problem is that for staked ETH to begin earning interest, enough ETH first needs to be staked from a minimum number of participants for Phase 0 to launch. Until that happens, it is very unlikely that any interest-bearing BETH tokens will be issued. So, what should you do? Well, I'll preface this by stressing that this is not financial advice. The fact of the matter is that we are at the start of another bull market. Unless you are a die-hard hodler like me, I would not recommend staking your ETH until some sort of BETH token becomes available. This is because if ETH does rally a lot in the next 3 to 6 months, you won't be able to sell and realize those gains. That said, I do believe that we will reach the minimum amount of ETH stake and participation required for Phase 0 to launch in the near future. It may not be December the 1st, but I am quite confident that it is coming in the next few months. I think that the announcement of the deposit contract has just been overshadowed by other events such as the 2020 election and Bitcoin's impressive price action in the weeks before it. The current pandemic is also still a primary concern for most people, even those in cryptocurrency. Ethereum 2.0 has taken a back seat for now, but once things start to settle down, I think we'll start to see a little more FOMO kicking in for Ethereum 2.0. If all else fails, I know the Ethereum development will think of something to boost staking participation. Alright guys and girls, that's all I have to say about Ethereum 2.0 for now. If this video gave you a dopamine hit, why not return the favor by clicking that like button? Remember that clicking the subscribe button will make you an official member of the Bureau, and hitting that notification bell will make sure you get these videos while they're hot. If you're looking for something more, I've got exactly what you're looking for. My weekly newsletter is jam-packed with classified crypto information that you won't get anywhere else. To get access to that super secret info, just click the first link in the video description, enter your email, confirm your email, and then wait for that forbidden knowledge to slide into your inbox. I won't spam you, I pinky promise. That's all for now. Remember to keep calm and hodl.